This was produced by the Labour Party Young Socialists in 1974, ahead of a demonstration that the party's youth wing was organising to oppose growing racist hostility to non-white Commonwealth immigrants and their families. The demonstration took place in Bradford, a city which since the 1950s had seen a number of workers from Pakistan arrive to work in the textile industry. But since the early 1970s, the fascist National Front was active in order to try to stir up interracial tension. It was in fact the first demonstration the Labour Party had ever organised on the subject of race. Racism divided the Labour Party almost as much as wider British society. The party was formally committed to equality, irrespective of race. The Labour government of the 1960s even introduced the first legislation to combat racist prejudice. Despite this, however, in the 1970s, racist views were still freely aired. And in the face of rising support for far-right groups, the Labour Party started to assume a much more assertive stance. Britain today is more accepting of multiculturalism than ever it was. But there are still people who are uncomfortable with difference. And hostility to immigration, some argue, lay behind much of the vote to leave the EU. Groups like the English Defence League are stoking up Islamophobia. The Labour Party even has problems dealing with anti-Semitism amongst its own members. So from education to employment, there remain significant areas where prejudice based on racial difference is an important issue still to be addressed. And even black public figures like the MP Diane Abbott still receive obscene racist abuse. The archive contains a vast array of documents and pamphlets that illustrate both the Labour Party's attempt to combat racism, but also some of the prejudices of its own members. There's also literature produced by organisations such as the National Front, collected by Labour members who wanted to try to better understand those organisations that wanted to exploit racism for their own ends.